Okay, the year is 2020 and it is Friday at 1:30 in the morning, October the 16th. I thought I'd make this video, recording, primarily because a lot of information is being withheld from the people, and it is necessary for them to know what is happening, because lack of knowledge and intelligence is the demise of any goal that they may have. So while this may be a bit of a documentary, a bit of a news, a bit of a revelation, it is very important that you listen to all of it. So here goes. First off, you're raised in a society. You are told what to study, what is right, what is wrong. Your perspectives are based on what you were brought up on. If you had good parents, if you had bad parents, it is irrelevant, because at the end of the day, for you to survive, you must be whatever they say you must be. You must know and understand what they say, and if you don't, you fall by the wayside. If you're a particularly talented musician, you're probably not going to get to the top unless if you play the game with them. There's a very sad day in the world where a man is born into captivity, and he's then given stories and narratives about slavery and the varying historical aspects of life that led us to where we are today. It is all bullshit, it is rubbish, it is fantasy, and our real history is kept away from us. And these people that perpetrate this with their academic institutions have corrupted the decent and honest people that once started these academic institutions. For example, a doctor is no longer a doctor. He's a salesman and a representative for a pharmaceutical company. Obviously, this is not the case for all doctors, but when one sees the prescriptions and what is done in the medical world for 1930 versus what we have today, it is pure nonsense, designed in a manner to extract and extort everyone on some form of financial level. Doctors are no longer taught some of the basic aspects of the human body in terms of the electromagnetic field. Doctors are almost lame compared to what their predecessors once were. And yet we have all this advancement in technology today in a chronological order. This is all rubbish as well. We have always had technology and the working principles of natural science and the world around us. This is not something that can be in a chronological manner. It is either learnt or it is not. Innovations can be done and achieved based on their current resources and what's around a given person. But to say the basic principles of life change, that cannot happen unless if collectively our reality is changed by our own will and drive to do it. But when there are a small group of people that are in charge of certain aspects of life, we get a segmented version where a man, to heal himself, must be a doctor. A man to defend himself must be a lawyer. A man that needs to get food to eat is no longer even able to farm. He sits his fat little backside in an office and he thinks he's smart. He takes a few drugs and he thinks he's better than other people, or he thinks he's an achiever because he made a grand total of X amount of sales for his company or for someone else's company. Man has forgotten how to live. He's not in touch with nature. He doesn't understand an ant or a bird or a lion will know when rain is coming and to go and shelter. He stands out there and then sees the clouds and then assumes it may rain. He's no longer in touch with nature. He is little more than a biological entity going around the world. So what's the point of all of this? What's the meaning of what I'm saying? Well, the meaning of what I'm saying is let's get into the technical and the actual facts of what I'm trying to demonstrate here. I grew up in a town called San Fernando, and I basically thought I outgrew the island by the age of 17, and I had explored all the different social circles, all the other aspects of whatever Trinidad had to offer. Except there's one little problem: the hills. The places where there are things under the hills. For example, on the island of Trinidad, there is a police station. And the narrative says that there was a place called Naparima before San Fernando was designated to what it is today. And when one explores this story, it does not match up. When one explores the story of every single state in the North American, US, and in Canada, as far as Australia, one sees these buildings and they are almost identical to one another. They almost look like castles. There's almost no one that's capable of rebuilding them at the time or today. We have these structures all over the world that have underground levels, and people are not really given much light as to what they mean. We have tunnel systems and train stations around the world, and people don't understand who built them and why, and we are told we did it today with modern engineering equipment. This is not true. We may have stumbled across these tunnel systems, but what people are not understanding is what is happening in the world today is a bottleneck of information, and right now I seem to be in a gray area where I'm getting all this information, so I must put it down somewhere. And people are in trouble in Australia. Homeless people are disappearing in Canada and around the US and around the world in general. The people in certain countries have no idea what's happening. For example, people are at the beach relaxing where I am. Yet in many other countries, they're restricted. They're told they can't leave their houses. They're told if they don't abide by the rules for their own safety, people are going to attack them. That makes no sense. Why would you harm that which you are supposed to be protecting? Why would you covertly create a mass pandemic in which you will harm and destroy the way of life, their economies, their countries, their states? Perhaps it is a distraction, or what we call an American effect, where you create a problem and you get your friend, a third party, to come and solve it, and then you get what you want. And you look like a hero in the process as well. So all these distractions are meant to take you away from God. And that is the problem here. There are generations after generations that are being born into this world thinking that this is normal, this way of life. For example, if you lived in a village and one man produced vegetables, another man produced cattle and cows and goats, another man was a undertaker, another one was an engineer. You had money so that everybody can be equally done onto themselves whatever they needed. Another man might be a laborer, another lady might be a maid. Everybody would be able to eat with the concept of money. Now people have forgotten all these things, and money itself has become more important than the produce or the people. And this is not right. This is not logical either. Then you've got modern connotations, back to what I was talking about with these buildings and these hills. People are unaware of what Masons speak of and why they are so secretive. They have built nothing. They are not even inheritors. They are thieves. And they are liars. They don't tell you the entire truth because they don't want you to know what they know, for fear that you will take over whatever it is that they are so preciously hiding, because it's not theirs. You see, people must understand that many people cannot go past their history beyond the year 1850. As such, they don't know where they really come from. and they're all immigrants at some point moving into new cities, as the case will be for many cities around the world, including Paris. When one looks at the Franco-Prussian War, one then understands that the destruction of these buildings around the world is not by chance or war. It is very difficult to get people to fight today with the current grooming of the mindset of a man. Yet he's on drugs and he will kill someone at a Friday night party. So the world has changed in many ways, and it is done quite on purpose. This is to distract you from the truth. The truth is, under every major city is a tunnel system. Under every major hill is a tunnel system. And this is primarily because a lot of the world was covered and destroyed just a few hundred years ago. And much of it was covered in also a lot of water. They don't want you to know why or whom or what created and caused this effect. Much of the world had to be reorganized again in the 16th and basically the 1600s and the 1700s. By 1780, much of the world as we know it today came from that period. And you've got the Americans with their independence, the French with their so-called destruction of the monarchy, and so it goes. And then as you are told, you think, well, I've got a bit of knowledge, they don't like monarchies. Well, it's all fake to begin with. These people calling themselves monarchs, some of them are connected to me by blood. These people have phantom lineages, and it's not real. They did not build, and their families cannot build these castles that they inherited or that belong to museums today and government properties. This is not their property. These cities and commerce and trade as we know it is all carefully constructed to self-destruct at given periods in time and given locations. This is why your technology and this phone that I'm using today is set in such a manner that it will not function in a few years. Even if you take care of it, it will not work. This is because the people that you were told about, that your great-great-grandparents had no electricity. But just before that, 100 years before them, there was all over the world. Imagine if they started to charge you for every breath you took while listening to this video, and you had to pay 1 cent for every time you inhaled. This is what they did to electricity, which can be easily harnessed in the atmosphere, amongst many other things. When one looks at these old buildings that are built, as we are told in many cases, prior to 1880 or 1900, one sees a lot of different things at the top of these buildings. Some of them have domes, some of them are very different. We're told that they're Greco-Romano buildings. This is all rubbish. And they tell you that oil takes millions of years to form. Garbage. Oil forms right now, even off the coast of California. You can find oil wells all over the Caribbean. And this is not funny. You're being misled very passively, where you yourself are making decisions based on television and media that is completely fake. Even bringing you down to the level that you're saying you're an animal, when in fact that your ancestry is probably that of an incubator baby, which one could easily go and buy at the turn of the century and start a new family. It was in advertisements. There's a reason why orphanages don't exist the way they did in our grandparents' and parents' time as they do in ours. The state has taken you over. The state is now become personified onto itself, where you no longer reflectively think that you make a part of the state. The government has become an entity where you need to remove yourself from it because you don't feel any warmth or human aspects in a government. A government has become a demon, a robotic character without feeling. How can something that is intangible be controlling you, yet it is made up of manpower, supposedly of this very same state it represents? This is not normal. This is illogical. And this is how a demon works. People must understand a robot has no emotions. As demon as you might put it, or a spirit or a malevolent entity, is the same thing. So when you are creating a computer, you are reverse engineering the human mind and the body. One must understand that there are many creatures that once roamed this earth. This was not thousands of years ago, this was just a few hundred years ago. People also don't understand that the Cold War with Russia and China, what they don't like is in the communist days, they told the people do what they needed to be done, or they'll die, or be arrested, or tortured. Here we had a passive approach. We could goad the people into doing what we wanted them to do through media and playing with them and giving them music and freedom and drink and money to excel and give themselves a sense of proprietary interest in the human body and whatever it is that they pursued. This is not the case over in the communist state. What people don't understand is all of them were one and the same, the communist guys and the supposed democratic guys. You're not supposed to have any of it. You're supposed to be a good person, well educated, and run your own life. Obviously, if we are all on the same playing field, we will be one cohesive unit, and a bridge between one another will always be there. But human discipline has been attacked, and we cannot possibly function on such a way without collectively forming groups and organizations to achieve a particular goal. Today, everything is centralized. This is no accident. This is designed so that the society will self-destruct and another group can come back and put it back together in the format that is needed to accomplish this agenda. And people are not seeing this. People don't understand, and a man can go in the village and go down the road and buy whatever he needs, tomatoes, vegetables. He goes to the butcher after, he talks to him, he gets his meats. Today you go to a grocery. The man in the city, there's no farmer for him to negotiate with. And even if there was, that farmer can't supply the thousands of people on his own. He has to get other farmers to help him. So you go to this grocery, and what happens when the supply market for the grocery is diminished? How do they survive? They have become prisoners that will die in a concrete jungle. This is no accident. These same buildings are covered in vegetation in many other parts of South America and the Caribbean. In many cases, they're underwater as well. It is because when one looks at a map, one can see that a map changes. And when one looks at the waterline, one sees many different things with different countries that are not even there anymore. Maps don't even have a proper history because they're put together in the 1800s. One must understand that it is such a veil being pulled over your eyes that when you walk down a hill, and some buildings have windows that are semi-submerged and it's in line with the pavement, from an engineering point of view, nobody wants to build sub-levels in a building unnecessarily. It floods, it's high maintenance, and it is just illogical. Yet we have so many fashions and so many things that people today, even in Canada and the US, will go and dig a basement out and then build their house over it. This is not just fashion and engineering. These things are designed, and concepts such as marketing induces people to do these things and to build this way and to even wear certain clothes. People have never even heard of functional jewelry because it's not a concept they're familiar with. Jewelry was a form of defense and communication in the old days. People wear it for fun today. You have ghetto rats making videos with music and uneducated people. They don't know, and they call it bling and ice and all sorts of nonsense. They have denigrated the human mind and reduced us to savagery. And anyone exclaiming and pretending to want or even desiring to go beyond this is subdued, ridiculed, told he can't fit in the system. Many different things are told to him. At the end of the day, the concept comes where your body releases a magnetic charge. Everybody has it, all creatures. And when one understands himself and is properly educated, one can harness this ability. And this idiotic idea of meditating and maybe one day you might hover if you get good at it, this is rubbish. You have to use practical approaches to things and logic. For example, every time a man ejaculates or releases, and vice versa for the female, your body reduces its energy flow. A prayer is not heard, an intent is not as strong, and your willpower is reduced. This is what they don't tell you. It is the secret to all these religions. Another most important concept is Christ. Christ has been heavily distorted on the historical narrative. The communists did not hide some of these things. They simply ignored it and told the people, don't even think about certain things. And yet you can go to India, Australia, and find the same bus stations. One might be a library, one might be a strange train station now, but it's the same identical buildings that you are told are Greco-Romano, coming from a past society, though pagan, was one of the largest in the world as we are in collective memory. It's been removed from your books. The country is called Tartaria. You can find reference to this Encyclopedia Britannica in the year 1772, 1778. You are told that this was just a region. You are told deserts, inexplicable geological aspects of the world, but a desert is a desert because they bombed it out. They had carpet bombings in all these areas. You are not told these things because if you knew, you would not be doing whatever it is we do today that we call life. You see the Chinese with their culture, the Indians with theirs, the Caucasians with theirs. But where's the African black man in his? He has nothing. He's reduced to be scattered and confounded. His only achievement is perhaps to do some form of academic training in the last 3 or 4 generations. Everything about him has been washed away, removed from the collective mind of the human race. This is no accident. People need to wake up and see what sort of world we live in. It is very, very dangerous how quickly whoever or whatever it is mobilizing against us. And we as people need to really, really think hard and get some facts going, because people don't even understand the buildings, the hills, the mountains. When they look to the sky, they don't know what they're seeing. I remember flying in a plane once, and I looked up to the horizon, I looked up to the sky, and I looked down at the ocean below, and I could not tell the difference between the ocean below and the sky above. And that is when I realized that the firmament was right above your head. A star was a portal to which you could get into that realm. And you do need some sort of air suit to go through that portal and survive in that type of climate up there. But there's no such thing as space. And space is not a lie, because the English language is designed in such a way for it to be a spell. And we don't know it. So there is a space up there. There's also space in your cupboard. But the definition and the connotations that come with it, you don't quite follow. People must understand that the facts are being hidden from them. And there are many different groups that are separated, and each of those groups are literally doing their honestly what they think is right. In the medical industry, again, they don't have a choice. Certain universities need sponsorship. They obviously will get it from the pharmaceutical companies. What ends up happening is people don't understand. The devil only needs one man from every group. He doesn't need an army. He just needs 5% of everyone, and he can make a whole 100% enemy that can take on anything you can send. Another aspect is people don't understand symmetry, sacred geometry. These are things they are not taught any longer. They don't understand the concept of marketing, of refining lies and bending truths. This is what they were sent me to university to do. This is a lie. This is wrong. You don't need to send somebody to teach them how to lie and fool people up. But this is what you go and you send your children to do. A man who calls himself a doctor and becomes a pharmacist, does he really care about people, or does he care about having a good career and the prominence and the prestige of being a professional? The world has been upside down, and then they are creating bad people. It fosters and engenders madness in the world. So you then have lies, and then you have bad people to contend with. And you yourself end up committing sin to defend yourself, not understanding what you're doing yourself. Some cases you feel so bad about what you have to do that you doubt yourself and you think you yourself are bad when in fact you're a good person. And you're only doing what's necessary to survive because you know no better. But I always tell people, sometimes you watch The First Planet of the Apes, you watch Alice in Chains, well, Alice in Wonderland, sorry, and you watch The Matrix, and you'll have a little idea of what's going on. With resets every 5 generations. This is pre-planned. Britain and France, all these wars that you talk about, is not real. People don't hurt people unless if they have no choice, or unless if greed or some other virtue is driving them. But people are not inherently bad or destructive. Hate is learnt. Happiness is earned. And being a good man is taught.